Welcome to a new absurdist tale in the Final Fantasy VII universe. Today, Cloud and Sephiroth face off at the Gold Saucer, but they won't be fighting with swords. They'll be competing in ridiculous minigames for a prize no one wants. Prepare for an epic comedy filled with surreal situations and lots of humor. The lights never went out, and the vibrant, infectious music echoed through every corner, accompanying the constant bustle of the crowd. People from all over Gaia walked back and forth, some with eyes shining with excitement, others staring open-mouthed at the attractions and the glowing signs that decorated the place. The air was filled with a sweet aroma, a mix of cotton candy, popcorn, and the subtle essence of something magical and unattainable. That day, however, the atmosphere was even more electric than usual. A rumor was spreading through every hall and corridor. The grand minigame tournament was going to take place that afternoon, and the prize promised to be something capable of changing any lucky person's life. The promise of fortune, fame, and excitement had drawn even larger crowds than usual. Entire families discussed strategies. Groups of friends laughed as they practiced moves in front of the games, and loners watched everything with a determined glint in their eyes. Amid all that chaos and color, two figures stood out, even without trying. Cloud, dressed in his characteristic blue outfit, and Sephiroth, his black coat flowing softly behind him, walked side by side, blending in and yet contrasting with the crowd. No one could help but steal curious glances at them. Some even tried to take discreet photos, convinced this couldn't just be a coincidence. Sephiroth stopped, turning his face slightly toward Cloud.
Didn't expect to find you here.
His voice, calm and deep, seemed to momentarily quiet the bustle around him. Cloud, true to his nature, replied without being fazed by the environment or the imposing presence of his former rival.
Neither did I.
His tone was neutral, almost curt, but loaded with a history only the two of them understood. Despite the circumstances and the unusual meeting place, both knew that somehow fate continued to weave their lives together with invisible threads. Surrounded by lights, laughter, and the echo of impossible promises of prizes, Cloud and Sephiroth remained calm, as if waiting for something else to happen on that peculiar stage. No one else understood what was going through their minds at that moment, but it was clear the show was just beginning. The first mini-game was the chocobo races. Gold Saucer, always true to its unpredictable spirit, had selected the most rebellious and eccentric chocobos from across the continent. There was tension in the air, mixed with the excitement of the bettors and the laughter of those who knew the reputation of those impossible-to-tame animals. Cloud and Sephiroth mounted their respective chocobos with complete solemnity, but the situation was anything but normal. Cloud's chocobo, a glaring, almost fluorescent yellow, kept spinning around in circles, pecking at the air in search of something invisible. The audience watched, half amused and half confused, wondering if this was part of the show. Meanwhile, Sephiroth's chocobo seemed to be having an existential crisis. It stared off at the horizon as if pondering the mysteries of the universe, completely ignoring the track and its own rider. The scene was so absurd that even the event announcer was left speechless for a moment. The start was absolute chaos. When the starting gun went off, Cloud's chocobo shot off. but only backwards, dragging Cloud several meters as the crowd roared with laughter. Some spectators started recording the disaster, convinced that the video would go viral. As for Sephiroth's chocobo, without warning, it decided to sit down in the middle of the track, unmoved by any attempt from its rider to make it move forward. It didn't matter if Sephiroth spoke to it in a low voice or gave it intimidating looks. The chocobo simply ignored him.
You do know how to ride, right?
Sephiroth's voice, as calm as ever, made it unclear whether he was mocking or genuinely concerned. Cloud tried to straighten his chocobo, which at that moment stopped abruptly and began to peck at Sephiroth's pants.
Don't make fun of me.
For a moment, they looked like two children trapped in an uncontrollable carnival act. Seeing that the race wasn't progressing, the audience began to cheer for the chocobos, shouting encouragement. Some children threw carrots from the stands, hoping to motivate the birds to run. One of the Gold Saucer employees tried to scare the chocobos by waving a giant moguri flag, but only succeeded in making one lie down to sleep and the other peck at the flag. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, both chocobos crossed the finish line, one zigzagging and the other walking backwards. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Neither of the two protagonists seemed very satisfied with their performance, but at least they hadn't gotten hurt. They were immediately taken to the next event, the classic Wheel of Fortune. Cloud spun first, and as soon as the wheel stopped, a shower of multicolored confetti covered him from head to toe. For a few seconds, he looked like a walking party decoration. Sephiroth spun next and won a plush frog. No one dared laugh out loud, but the looks said it all. Cloud raises an eyebrow, covered in confetti.
At least it's not sticky.
Sephiroth looks at the plush frog and holds it expressionlessly, as if he held the fate of the world in his hands. Gold Saucer kept buzzing with its chaotic energy. The challenges kept coming, shooting at cans, dancing to the rhythm, memory games. Neither of them managed to stand out. Luck seemed to conspire to keep them tied in mediocrity, an irony not lost on them or the spectators. Suddenly, the loudspeakers announced the final round, the Gold Saucer Supreme Karaoke. The rules were simple. Sing a surprise song in front of the audience, randomly selected by a machine. The winner would be chosen by the loudest applause. Cloud sighed. Sephiroth closed his eyes for a moment, resigned. They stepped onto the stage under a rain of applause, boos, and laughter. The machine picked the song, a MIDI version of The Girl from Costa del Sol. Cloud took the microphone first. His voice was as monotonous as the weather in Midgar. The audience squirmed, uncomfortable, but some seemed to find it hilarious. Sephiroth, with the same calm with which he wielded his Masamune, sang the song as if it were a funeral march. The audience was silent at first, and then burst into laughter and cheers.
This is absurd.
I know.
When the music ended, the two left the stage, certain they had just made the biggest fools of themselves in their lives. However, the judges began to deliberate. The master of ceremonies, dressed as a Mughal, climbed onto a platform and waved his hands to get everyone's attention. With a booming, cheerful voice, he shouted, "The grand special prize goes to both of you. We've never seen anything like this." The news hit like a confetti bomb. The audience roared with excitement, jumping and clapping as if they were witnessing the birth of a legend. Fireworks lit up the vaulted ceiling of the gold saucer, while a huge golden curtain was drawn back, revealing the long-awaited prize to the expectant crowd. A gigantic human-sized Mughal plush, with a huge smile and its arms open as if waiting for an eternal hug, appeared on stage surrounded by colorful flashes and sparks. The master of ceremonies hurried to explain, amid shouts and laughter, that there was a single condition for claiming the prize. They would have to take the giant Mughal everywhere, day and night, for an entire month. Not a single minute apart from the plush, not even to sleep. The crowd burst into laughter and cheers. Some couldn't believe what they were hearing. Others were already placing bets on how long they'd last without losing their patience. Cloud looked at the giant Mughal with resignation, wondering at what point his life had taken such a bizarre turn. Sephiroth, for his part, crossed his arms, standing absolutely still as if trying to resist the absurdity by sheer willpower.
This is ridiculous.
The audience could barely contain their laughter at the expressions on their faces. Cloud let out a deep sigh just as the giant Mughal fell on him, hugging him mercilessly and almost knocking him off balance.
Here's no escape, is there?
A real Mughal, tiny and lively, appeared out of nowhere to hand them a detailed list of rules written on an endless scroll. No leaving the Mughal behind, no leaving it alone anywhere. If the Mughal falls, both must pick it up together. And of course, daily photos are mandatory to prove compliance. The crowd cheered each new rule as if it were the final of a world championship. No one wanted to miss the show of seeing two legendary heroes turned into the official babysitters of a giant plush toy. Cameras flashed non-stop, and a rain of multicolored confetti fell on all three: Cloud, Sephiroth, and the Mughal plush, the new, absurd sensation of the gold saucer. And so the tournament ended not with a heroic victory, but with two legends doomed to go everywhere together, hugging a Mughal plush that, for some reason, seemed much happier than they were.
I'm not explaining this to anyone.
Me neither.
And while the crowd laughed, took selfies, and exchanged incredulous glances, the gold saucer celebrated the most improbable piece Gaia had ever seen. A giant Mughal plush, two legendary rivals, and the most surreal month of their lives. And so ends Cloud and Sephiroth's most absurd adventure, forced to carry a giant Mughal and put up with each other for a whole month. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what other characters you want to see in ridiculous situations from the Final Fantasy VII universe. See you next time, and may the giant Mughal be with you.